conference and announcements. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Eddie, CEO of Ryanair DAC, to take you through a presentation. Over to you, Eddie.
Thanks everybody. I'll keep this short. It's great to be back in Cork again with more good news. Like Ryanair we flew throughout the pandemic. We kept all our crews and our aircraft current so that we could take the best opportunity on the way back. And we're a strong airline. We've got the financial strength, we've got the aircraft, and we've got the people. And that's why we're here today to make an announcement in Cork. But it's not just in Cork. We're going to grow to 165 million passengers in Europe next year. We'll have 90 bases, similar to Cork here, almost 300 airports. And we're going to grow with our new MAX order to 225 million passengers over the next 5 to 6 years, and still have extraordinarily low fares. So, the real backdrop here in Ireland is that, having been the worst affected country in the European Union, we eventually got our act together government-wise, and they gave the tools to the DAA, and you saw the announcement that we made a number of weeks ago in Dublin, where we had our largest ever summer schedule, and we were able to launch that. It's a scheme that would have allowed all airlines access, so airlines who've lost a lot of money throughout this pandemic can actually put the aircraft, because the aircraft can go anywhere in Europe, and Ryanair is an Irish company. We want to put as many of those aircraft in Ireland. We started that process in Dublin a number of weeks ago by having our biggest ever schedule with 33 aircraft, and we can see that across Ireland now, where we've got 3 bases. We're well back to summer 19 levels. We're going to have about 114% of capacity. So we're growing in Dublin, Shannon, and again here in Cork. I was here a number of months ago for the reopening of the base. And it really is important to have that infrastructure in, so that the tourism industry that depends on it so much can rely on the capacity and people who are going to arrive here. So we are leading that recovery. So the good news today for Cork is that we had 2 aircraft based here. It's so important to have based aircraft, because when you've got a based aircraft, it generally flies 8 routes a day, so that's where you get the real kicker in growth, rather than depending on capacity coming from one of the other 90 bases within the Ryanair network. So we will now have 25 routes. 7 of those are new, some great sun destinations in Venice, Marco Polo, also in Sardinia, Alghero. We've got Pisa and Valencia, which is Spain's 3rd largest city, and also a great sort of beach destination as well. And then we've reinstated some of the UK Ps, which are so important here for local tourism in Manchester, Birmingham, and also in Edinburgh. So it creates jobs, creates capacity, and supports infrastructure and tourism. So we are leading the recovery. It's a great day, I think, for Cork. We're going to really grow our market share here. I think we represent almost 65% of the market. There'll be local jobs, but the really important thing, the call out to government today is that going into the winter, because coming out of post-pandemic, it's not just about the summer, where we're reasonably confident about the summer, but we could have interruptions next winter, who knows. We need to ensure that as many of the aircraft that we have put into the Irish market remain at least throughout the winter, so that we have that smooth growth into next summer, because if aircraft stay for 2 seasons, then they're more likely to stay for good. So we would say to Pascal Donoghue, who has been, along with the ministers in transport, have put in this scheme, and they should continue to support Irish airports, including Cork, Dublin, Shannon, Knock and Kerry as well, to put that in for the winter time, copper fasten the investment and recovery, so that we can come out of this pandemic and keep that smooth allocation of aircraft, not only just for this summer, but more importantly into next winter, and then that will copper fasten, we believe, based aircraft into the summer. So thank you, and thanks again. Great welcome in Cork as usual. So hand over to her.
Thanks very much, Eddie. Isn't it great to be here on a sunny morning and with good news? And it's great to be not talking about a pandemic, so please don't mention pandemic anyone in the questions. First of all, I'd like to introduce somebody to you. There's a gentleman there at the back, Barry Holland. Barry, you might wave there. Barry is our new communications manager for Cork Airport. Joined us last week from EY, which in my day used to be known as Ernst Young. And so, as we all know, Kevin has been promoted to Group Head of Communications for DAA, so he'll stay on the Cork scene, but Barry will be Communications Manager. So we're very grateful and glad to have Barry on board and wish him success in his career. I have 5 kids, so the 7 of us travelling. The first thing we're going to do now, after this announcement, is go up and check out Sardinia and Pisa and Valencia and see where the values to be had in hotels and get in before their sale ends in 48 hours' time. So I'd encourage everyone to get booking on one of those 25 routes. There's a bit of value to be had now when the sale is on, but things are going to get hectic over the summer. So it's great news. We're going to be upgrading our traffic forecast for Cork Airport for 2022 to over 2 million passengers on foot of today's announcement. So if you recall, we had 2.6 million in pre-pandemic in 2019. We've grown by 25% over 5 years. We had 250,000 passengers last year. So it's 7.5 times the growth in 2022 versus 2021. So it's a really decent recovery. People were saying that tourism and aviation would take 4 years to recover. Announcements like this have probably locked a year off that recovery time schedule. So it's realistic to be expecting the overall pool of Irish aviation, because not everyone is growing as strongly as Ryanair, to recover probably is it 2024 or 2025, but it's in that timeline. So a year at least has been locked off the recovery schedule by the good start in 2022. I'd like to acknowledge 2 people here today, because myself and Eddie get to front these things and talk about these things, but in reality all the hard work is done by the next level down. And so Brian Gallagher, our Head of Aviation and Commercial Business Development, is over there with Tara Finn, and they work on our side to grow our network and grow our routes. And of course they work with Ray Kelleher, who's here at the front, who's Ryanair's Director of Route Development, and with his equivalent in other airlines. So it's really important to acknowledge the people who do the hard work and bring in these new routes. Red Sea is the government research agency. Well, they're not the government research agency, they're a private research agency. And they published their sentiment for Irish economy yesterday, actually. And if you look at it, it's about a 23-page PowerPoint. But if you look at Irish people's propensity to travel for this summer is off the scale. So just have a look, it's about page 16 or something. It's quite an easy report to digest. It's done in graphs or whatever, but it is off the scale. I don't think I am talking to the uninitiated. None of us have been abroad for 2 years. Those that don't work in the trade, with our families, and we were all just dying to get abroad to warm our bones with our other halves and our families. And so this summer is going to be a rocking summer. And the final message in very short terms is, look at this terminal. This is a beautiful terminal, a really beautiful terminal with polished stone floors and hardwood beams, but most importantly, really friendly staff who get you through it in a couple of minutes. And so you can park in our short-term parking, our long-term parking, it's only across the road. When you're travelling this summer, you want the convenience of an airport like this. So you want to get in, you don't want to be stressed, you want friendly staff, you want to get through security, you want to have a coffee in our lounge, and our newly opened, only opened this week, and I see the team, Grania from the Aspire Lounge there. It's great to have you guys back, only reopened last week after such a long, I can't say the P word. So when you're booking your holidays, remember, support Ireland's second largest airport, second largest in the Republic, support the friendliness of the staff here, support our network. We will have 40 routes this summer, of which 25 will be Ryanair routes. So we're very grateful to our colleagues in Ryanair. It's always great to welcome Eddie and Ray and the team here today, and we encourage you to support our network. So thank you.
Eddie and Neil would be happy to take any questions from the media at this stage. Brian, do you want to join us here? Rick Gallagher, Ryanair's Director of Development, and Brian Gallagher, Cork Airport's Head of Aviation and Commercial Business Development. Ralph?
You mentioned that Ryanair were, Mr. Wilson, you mentioned that Ryanair were leading the recovery this year from the pandemic hit. Could you talk a little bit more in detail about precisely how are things going better than you hoped for this year in terms of passenger numbers, modes?
Yeah, I mean, what you've got to, when we hit Omicron the last weekend in November, that sort of slowed down bookings completely. And what happens is that you've got a normal demand curve of when people book, and that has been interrupted. So while bookings are strong into the summer and fare levels are very encouraging, you're not back to where you are. So because people are tending to book in the short term still until we get into a full recovery. But like signs are really, really encouraging. But what we've done is we put the capacity in, so we put the flights on, and we've grown to 114% this summer where we were back in summer 19, which is the last, really comparable year that you have. So we have 65 extra aircraft arriving this year, and around the peaks, fares are higher, but Ryanair flies 7 days a week, so we've got to get those passenger numbers back. But we are confident, but we've had interruptions before, so we always have one eye to that. It's less likely, I suppose, as we approach, we get into the spring and into the summer period. But we are very encouraged, and I think people should get out there and book now. And the Irish, in particular, I think have been locked up for so long, the most locked up country in Europe, and they can't wait to get going. It's like the start of the Grand National.
Any other questions? Sensing none. Alan Healy, Irish Examiner.
Thanks. Eddie, could you expand a little bit about the government's rewards? What has it actually meant now that the incentives have what does that mean for the airline?
What happens is that airlines, a lot of airlines have gone bust. Ryanair lost close to €1 billion last year. We are going to lose somewhere in the order of 250 to 400 million euros this year up to the end of March. We have about 2.6 billion euros that we've got to pay back in terms of additional debt that we have. Like we are probably, and against that background, we're still the most financially secure airline in Europe. But what you need to do is that you need to be able to, if you look at that level of debt, you've got to say that, look, what way is the summer going to look in terms of growth? You've got to keep one eye to that, and you've got to manage that. You've got to manage that comeback in terms of where you're going to put those aircraft. Aircraft can be moved from country to country. We've got 90 places that we can put them. If a government like Ireland has done and came in reasonably late, but put in a scheme that said to all airlines, if you put your aircraft here this summer, well then we will give you a rebate on charges. So in order for us to, having lost that amount of money, we're going to put where we can get the best return. And if airport charges are discounted in the short term, which they have been for this summer, and that's why you see Dublin going up to 33 based aircraft. That's why Cork has got a third aircraft here, because we've got a better chance, I suppose, of getting a return. So the government has done well on that, even though they've been late to the party. But we'd say to them, don't undo that, keep it for next winter, particularly for inbound tourism here, because we don't have the weather here, and we want people to be coming here in the autumn and in the winter as well. Keep those aircraft here, and extend that scheme, even in the short term until next summer, and then you're more likely to hang on to that capacity. Once you've got capacity, that means you've got the infrastructure to deliver inbound and outbound trips.
Also on the 65, they're the MAX aircraft.
The new MAX
operation before the summer,
We've got 51 of them, I think, in operation already throughout the fleet. So out of a fleet of approximately 500 aircraft, about 10% of those now are 8,200 MAX aircraft. So some of them operating out of Dublin, Stansted, Krakow, and places like that. But I think they fly in here as well from the London operation as well. So they'll be an integral part of the fleet.
And just finally, do you have any concern from Ryanair's perspective and the global airline industry that perhaps there's huge pent-up demand for summer breaks and that kind of stuff, get a holiday, but that there may be a long-term impact and long-term depression in airline travel, coming at all angles, climate change concerns,
I don't believe so. I mean, I think the industry is responsible for lots of things on the climate change front. Sometimes we get maligned in this industry for, we're responsible as an industry for less than 3% of global emissions. Ships are responsible for double that, and cars are responsible somewhere in almost 30%. So, but we are not shirking our responsibilities. You're going to see sustainable aviation fuel is really the key to the propulsion systems are going to take a bit longer. But I don't see anything in terms of climate change, in terms of, we read a lot about it, but I don't think it's reflected in passenger behaviour. Passenger journeys tend to track GDP growth. People want to see one another for business, for visiting friends and relatives, for holidays. And there's a lot of countries, we tend to think of air travel as being discretionary, but you look at, the Spains, Portugals, the Italy's, and Greece, it's a substantial part of their economies for tourism. That's their factories, and tourism here is an integral part of our GDP as well. So I think it's going to come back. I think it'll be a little bit bumpy on the way back. I think there's no doubt that people will travel in the peak, but it will take a little bit longer for the demand curves to work themselves out, but everybody wants to travel.
Any final question? Sensing none, thank you all for your attendance this morning, and as Neil said, there's a seat sale available on the Ryanair.com website today for those 25 destinations from Cork, with prices starting from as little as €19.99. Thanks for your attendance this morning. Gurbil Margot Blair.